remembers CDs? You remember, yeah, remember putting one of those in your Discman and going for a run in the afternoon? Because I don't, and it might be because I haven't been running a lot, but that's a different story. The point being, I really miss those days when we could talk about going to the record store and finding your latest release of Ice Cube, who, by the way, has gotten a lot softer over the years, but that's another story also. But I think we all adapted quite happily to first the illegal downloads, which were for free, and then the somewhat legal streams. While the rest of the industry, the big players in the music industry, the publishers, the labels, the collecting societies, they struggled massively to prepare themselves for this digital future. And I don't think you can blame them. I mean, the industry was working fantastically back in those days when you were selling physical products and printing out paper statements. At the peak time, they were selling roughly a few billion records across a third of the globe. Now, that's physical records. It's changed. We've got digital music now. And I think, as you all know, the quantity has changed a lot. So we have gone from billions of very expensive records to now trillions of very cheap streams. And that changed the music industry fundamentally. I think everybody, or some of you might have seen the headlines of the music industry struggling over the last few years. Well, guess what? I thought it was a great idea in 2012 to join the music industry at the lowest point. I joined Cobalt, the challenger, the underdog back in the days that was armed with technology and ready to change the industry from grabbing those decreasing pieces of the pie to increasing the pie altogether. But before I explain all of that, you will need to know a little bit more about the music industry. So let's start off with a crash course. The music industry is crazy. You don't need to know anything else. No, it's much more than that. The music industry is crazy because it's basically a huge risk to go into it, right? I mean, becoming Kiss or Van Halen or Britney Spears or maybe somebody else, maybe Katy Perry, it takes a lot of risk and a lot of effort. So typically back in the days, if you wanted to be Kiss or somebody else, you would have to go with your mates into their garage, record a demo tape, then send it off to the label, which would then probably burn it or throw it away, unless you were lucky and somewhat known, in which case you might actually have a chance to get a record deal. Now, what are those record deals like? Well, they're a little bit like what you see with Britney Spears. You get the full talent development program, much like a cap, right? You get thrown into it. You get thrown into it. Britney Spears from 2000 up to 2008, or maybe hopefully a little bit earlier. Essentially what that means is the label takes a huge risk in developing you as the next legendary artist to write the songs of your marriage or whatever it happens to be. That means they also retain the copyright, what you actually own as a property. And you might be seeing decreasing revenue over this period. And that is the old school system of the label of how you would get your contract. Now, to give you a bit of a better analogy that you might think already about in your head, imagine you've just finished your MBA and you're buying a house. Smaller than this one because you won't have any money. So you're buying yourself a house with a mortgage, you already need one for that, and you're paying it down every single month until you've paid it all off. Well, guess what? In the music industry case, the bank now owns your house, even though you've paid it back. That's the sort of extreme analogy, but it shows you just this ownership sense of mentality that was across the entire music industry. Not just the labels or the publishers, but also, and this is very crucial, the collecting society. Now, who the hell are collecting societies? They are super, super important within the music industry. Imagine you are Ed Sheeran and you just got your music deal. Oh, wrong guy. Imagine you're Ed Sheeran and you got your music deal with, say, Warner. You don't just earn money from your Spotify premium workout playlists. You also get money from concerts, from the radio, from TV ads, and the one that you are all most responsible for, La Fira. But how does that money then get back to the label and then back to Ed Sheeran? Well, for this sort of thing, the music industry had a great idea. Let's set up these collecting societies. So in every single country, there's one in Spain, there's one in Germany, one in the US. They're going out there licensing your songs to Lafira, which then pays back the money to the collecting society, which pays it back to the label, which pays it back to Ed Sheeran. Except there's another problem. Because guess what? There's no data standard. So every single society and every label has a different standard. So you get a huge mess of data. To put that into perspective, I'll give you some Mix-a-Lot. Now, I'm pretty sure only half of you actually know what that song sounds like. The guy at Lafira also doesn't know because he's pretty drunk at 2 a.m. in the morning, so he only submits "I like Big Butt" song. And that gets reported back to the collecting society, back to the label, and the label then doesn't know who it belongs to because there is no artist and this song could virtually be anyone's song. And this is, in a nutshell, obviously it's simplifying the entire issue, but you are having this massive data error lying around and it creates huge losses in earnings for everyone, for the label, for the publisher, and for the musician, who is the one that's really suffering at the end. So how much do you actually earn? Imagine you're Ed Sheeran, so you've lost all this money, supposedly. How much do you get at the end of the day? Take a wild guess. I think you all know it. It depends. You get either 50% or 20%, or if you're very unlucky, 10% or less. The truth is, it completely depends where you are and who you've signed your deals with. So, it matters most that you are not getting enough as your musician. So what is the solution? Well, Cobalt actually thought, let's make this pretty simple and just adapt for once to the technology that's out there. It's really not rocket science, unlike Alberto's talk. It's about setting data standards. Remember the business analytics class, 80% data preparation. And it's true. You are ending up, and Cobalt did as well, setting the data standards and matching everybody else's to their own to then have a reporting standard that can be analyzed. So essentially, suddenly you have analytics that can look into, well, I like Big Butts really means so a Mix-a-Lot song, and I should be getting more of that. Why is there not more money coming from that? And this set off a huge technology revolution within the company even. We're no longer talking about paper statements. We are talking about a proper portal for musicians. We are talking about transparency every single month, every day, 24/7. You get more earnings, you get them faster, and you can even look into your syncs, which is a very manual task, and I won't go into that. But what Cobalt has essentially done is give power back now to the musician. The consumer had it, the industry had it ages ago, and now the musician finally is back in control. And it means the world to a lot of them. Earnings have increased quite a lot, and you can imagine the whole industry is looking at Cobalt as sort of the evil Google within the music, trying to change everything up. Has this been successful? Yes, very, very successful. Cobalt is now one of the leading publishers in the industry, backed by Google Ventures and by many other players. They've tried their very best to increase the pie across the industry by pushing out their technology to collecting societies, to other labels and publishers even. The responses have been mixed, but nevertheless, we are talking about a massive revolution that is now taking off as the old music industry transforms itself from the copyright owner to the service industry it needs to be for musicians. And it really didn't take a lot. We are talking about very, very simple technology. So what I want to leave you with is something that Ed Sheeran hopefully would agree with me here. It's the small things that can kick off a giant revolution. Thank you very much. Have a lovely good night.